Hello, ladies. Welcome back to the Winter Academy, where we help women build better lives with the tools that they already possess. We are still in this series with Iyanla Vanzant, The Value in the Valley. And where we left off at was resistance. And so let's get started. I almost want to say a prayer, so let me just say that real quick. It is our objective to align by mind, body, and soul. We do that by recognizing we are already people of value. Remember, I am just confirmation for what you already know to be true. Now let's get started. And so Miss Iyanla starts off by reminding us that um, when you are spiritually inept, you argue for and hold on to the very things which limit your ability to grow. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, if you continue in your way, resisting the lesson, insisting you are right, struggling to have your way, you will eventually die, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Constant struggle and conflict can kill your will to live. But life will not give you up without a fight. Life needs you, your gifts, your talents, and energy. If you hang in there long enough, you will get the lesson. And I think when we can begin to compartmentalize that, the school of hard knocks, right, it's just that, a school. So there is preparation, there is testing, and then there's eventually graduation, right? Miss Iyanla also goes on to say, the objective is for you to realize you have, the objective is for you to realize you are having a learning experience. Exactly. Recognizing what it is, realize how you got into this situation, and be willing to make the required changes to move beyond where you are. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, your willingness to learn or resistance to learning will determine the condition of the valley in which you find yourself in. When you are in a valley with resistance and resentment, chances are you need redemption. She goes on to say, when you are willing to take responsibility for what you have done or not done, learning from the challenges, obstacles, and difficulties you face, you will grow. That's beautiful. So when we think about maturity, maturation, it is typically predicated on experience, right? It's not necessarily aging, right? Because a thing can grow. It can grow forward, it can grow back, it can grow diagonally, but unless you grow up, right? And we're using the term up because that is the space in which you have the least amount of obstacles in your way, right? And so when you grow up, that's also relinquishing things, right? If we think about the maturity progressing when we start, say, as adolescence, when we were starting the puberty stage, right? That is the maturation of the body. And sometimes the body can grow at a speed that the mind hasn't, right? And so you get terms like late bloomer and that kind of thing. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, I am an easy learner. That is affirmation. I am an easy learner. The valley is merely downtime. Time to reflect, regroup, and heal. Remember, when you're in your single season, that's the time where you're like living your life. You're going to all the art shows and fairs and all the eclectic things you like, right? You're doing the things that make your heart sing. You're working on your mentality. You're working on your diet, exercising, reading more books, right? The things that are a part of us that help to settle us or mature us when we were children, right? Miss Iyanla goes on to say, in every lesson, there is a blessing. And that's facts, you know. She asks us, what quality would I need to develop to have peace? That's a great question. Do I need patience, faith, tolerance, or some deeper understanding of who I am? I think all of the above, right? I think it takes patience to settle with growing up, maturing, no longer doing the thing that you used to do, right? Because we can backslide or be coerced, or, if the faith, like she states, isn't matured itself, then it's easy for us to go back to what we know because it's familiarity, right? Miss Iyanla goes on to say, if you can remember this, you will realize that every valley experience is an opportunity for you to take one step closer to your greatness. And that's what we're on, this trajectory up of greatness, right? When people look at us, they feel inspired. When people look at us, they feel like, wow, that person has it together. I wonder if there's room for me, right? And then we begin to help people build their faith and confidence in themselves for the mere fact that they see that it is possible. See, sometimes we are the example. Sometimes we're the jump off. And when I say jump off, I more so mean for a person to get it together, right? So sometimes you have to wrong the right person, right, in order for that karmic debt to really be fulfilled. Sometimes you have to see it in action to know that the thing is real, right? There's an old colloquial saying in the Black community that fat meat is greasy. And a lot of people kind of have to find out the hard way, right? Miss Iyanla goes on to say, the valley helps us grow the character traits and embrace the spiritual virtues we need to find peace within ourselves and life. If we do not have peace in our hearts, in our home, right, we're not going to find it out there in the world, right? At best, we are a reflection of nature, but the world is reflecting us, right? So when we look for the negative, it appears. When we look for the positive, it appears. Neither one is good or bad. It is how you perceive it, right? What's good for me may not be good for you. Like, if I'll use me for example, because I am extreme in most things, right? So I work out probably 6 to 7 days a week. Mind you, it's just like 30 or 45 minutes, right? But that's my thing. That might be too intense for someone starting off, right? If you're someone who's worried about your knees or high intensity training, right? If you're not into that, that might be extreme for you. So what works for one may not work for the other. So you do yourself a service when you look for the good, right? But it has to first come from self, right? So if we're even deciding to look for good, that means that we're already like good people, right? Miss Iyanla goes on to say, peace is the most advantageous learning environment. It is, girl, let me tell you. How do you think I've been able to consume all these books? Well, I got books on my desk right there. I got books in my room. I got books in the closet. There are books everywhere. You have to have the downtime, the peace, the tranquility, and a certain level of time management, I suppose, to be able to consume a large amount of literature. For me, that's peaceful for me. So for you, that might be being able to take a walk at the beach, enjoying the solace, the solitude, right? Listening to nature. You have to find the time for those things because they communicate to the universe that this person is requiring this. It sends a mental sign, it sends a signal to the mind that we want more of this, right? Miss Iyanla goes on to say, we realize our experiences, no matter how dark they may be, are merely lessons to guide us. We realize our experiences, no matter how dark they may be, are merely lessons to guide us. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, in reality, there are transitory conditions you must pass through on the way to peace. And that's a fair statement. How do we know a good thing unless we know its counterpart, right? We value love more so after a heartbreak or a loss, right? We value commitment and loyalty when those things are not readily available or they didn't show up with the person that knocked at the door, right? We look for those things, right? But we also are becoming more consciously aware that when this starts to hit the fan, that means we're getting closer to the intended outcome. There has to be, remember, once again, this is school. So there is learning, there's testing, and there's graduation. So the bull is the test to see if you're going to fall for it, to see if you're going to match the energy, like a lot of people keep saying. Don't never match nobody's energy. Be respectful to you regardless of whatever anybody else is doing. Because what we're saying in essence is that my energy is predicated on what you do. That's too much control. That's too much control to just delve out. No, I'm going to be happy because I said so. It has nothing to do with you. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, women who actually have a great deal to do in life, women who actually have a great deal to do in life, a special gift to offer, yet refuse to surrender to the guidance of their own spirit, trying to do it their way. And so when we begin to reimagine what femininity is, when we add terms and connotations that do not truly define the feminine, the mother, the nurturer, then we're doing a disservice to the entire world, right? Lulu Amalu is the first ancient bones that they found in the cradle of civilization in Africa, right? Little pygmy woman, maybe like 4'7", 4'11", maybe. That's where it started. So this concept of we're gonna skate past foundational energies on the planet to do something new and expect a new result, it's insanity. It's insanity. Miss Iyanla goes on to say the universe responds to us by giving us exactly what we ask for and need, right? So I want you to, in your mind, when you wake up, begin to say, this is what I want for the day. You can do that and replay that in your mind often, right? Because once you begin to say it, then you begin to see it. It's kind of like that theory of when you spot like the red car or the beetle bug, you'll begin to see more of that thing. And you never noticed it before, but once you begin to focus in on it, now you're seeing it everywhere. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, pain gets your attention. Pain forces you to focus. And it just shouldn't be like that. You know, when we're going through hardship and trying times, this is when a lot of people work best, when their back is against the wall. That is very reminiscent of when college students are studying and they haven't spaced out the studying, so they do all of the cramming. You're not going to retain anything if you're cramming information. You're just not. And so if we're just cramming all of the pain that we've ever experienced, we're really not learning from that. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, they are the universe's way of saying, look, something is not working. And so because we think, oh, I'm strong enough to push through, to do this, to do that, then that's what we should be doing. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you're strong doesn't mean you should have to be, right? This is an innate tool that is utilized at your disposal. But just because you're strong doesn't mean you have to be. Just because you're familiar with pain doesn't mean you have to stay there. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, wishing, hoping, and trying means you are not doing what it takes to alter the situation. And so when we begin to romanticize pain, trauma bonding, we're not learning the lesson, right? The body don't like that. And we keep doing more of that, right? The hoping, the wishing, and that's not fruitful. See, when we talk about hopes and wishes, that's for a greater world, right? Hopes and wishes are for the magnitude. But with us directly, we shouldn't hope to be healed. We shouldn't wish to be healed. We should be actively working towards doing that, right? And it's at our disposal. It's at our disposal. The day we wake up and say, I don't want to do that no more. I don't want to talk to that person no more. I don't want to go to that place no more. And you just don't. You go cold turkey. I was contemplating going back to veganism by the time I turned 40. So I'll be 39 this year. Well, I think maybe the end of last year, I was just like cold turkey. I just stopped. I didn't have to space it out. I didn't have to torture myself. I know what meat is doing to my body. I know it's causing all kind of inflammation. I know it's harming me. But because I like the taste, I'm eating it. No, that's not sound, right? I'm harming myself because I like it. It's weird, right? Miss Iyanla goes on to say, and this particular passage is titled, Spirit Never Strikes Without Warning. The valley of light, silence, solitude, and for her, celibacy. Choosing not to be depressed and lonely because you're alone. And exposing true feelings is how you decide to love. So every action that we take is a decision, right? You decide to be angry, you decide to be happy, you decide. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, spending downtime preparing for the experiences and finding new things to do. That is how you respond to adverse energy. Finding new things to do, gaining new experiences, right? She also goes on to say spending quality times with friends, children, and family and friends. That is a way for you to send out the signal to the universe that you're no longer interested in the thing before, but this comes first now. I'm interested in this level now, right? And if you are someone who has a calling on your life, you are interested in ministering, being a witness, being a prophet, whatever. Listen, use whatever term you want. But if you're interested in helping people and you wonder, why me? Am I enough? Those are miniature obstacles that are not allowing you to be the true version of yourself. And so then you have to begin to get around family and friends and loved ones that help to reestablish who and what you are. You know what I'm saying? These are our advocates, our children, our lovers, our pastors, our counselors, our bank tellers. Like, these are advocates. These are people that are encouraging you mentally, physically, spiritually, subconsciously. They are asking you to engage in the public the way they know you can. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, even going back to school, completing college, those were the things that aid in a productive self-image. Those are the things that we can lean on and say, I'm a good person to the core, and I want to take what's in me and put it out there, right? And there's nothing wrong with saying you're a good person. That isn't having your butt on your back or being uppity or whatever the case is. We know that there's negative and we know that there's positive, right? And there's a negative and positive charge in each person. It's what you lean heavily on, right? That's one. And then there is the nature of a person, right? So what you naturally, innately do, how you operated as a kid. Were you a sharing kid? Were you the kid that pushed kids down, or you snatched toys, or you were like, that's my friend, you can't talk to, like, those are core aspects of who we are, right? And so when we begin to deny that and pretend to be something that we're not, to fit in or blend in or whatever the case is, you still stand out. You still stand out. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, when we find ourselves in the same valley repeatedly as a result of our conditioned responses, we must stop and do a new thing. Literally, we have to prepare the mind to be able to listen. Is this my thought, or is this a thought that was given to me? Am I really this, or is that a societal norm? We have to begin to break down the intricacies of what is making us up. Why are we doing the things that we do, especially repeatedly? A mistake is a mistake. You can still be a grown, naive person. You can still be a grown, innocent person. That has a lot to do with experience or lack thereof. And so we need to understand that we have the power to pivot the mind, to change, to alter. We have that inside of us. Miss Iyanla goes on to say the lesson we must learn does not change. And that's on period. So the school of thought is still the school of thought. It never changes, right? The curriculum is the same. The requirements are the same. The tests are the same. Is the outcome going to be the same, though? Are you going to do the new thing? You are the new thing. If only you knew. If only you knew. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, if we use valley experiences as reflective tools, we gain clarity. Isn't it a beautiful thing to like do stock on your own life and realize, I don't go there no more. I don't talk to that person no more. I don't do that no more. Child, I would never, not at my big age, I would never, right? That stuff doesn't entertain you anymore. And it's a beautiful thing because then we can explore the world. We're not beholden to the four corners we stay on, right? We're not beholden to any one person. We get to experience the variety of life. We get to experience this cluster of abundance in all spaces, be it person, place, or thing. We get the experience of newness. And I'm so happy every day that I'm reminded of that level of access. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, when we put forth the effort required to gain an understanding our underlying motives, when we put forth the effort required to gain an understanding of our underlying motives, we can turn any valley into a ditch. And so the difference between the valley and a ditch is the valley is you're in it. You're in it. And now you got to dig yourself out. The ditch is the stumble. Light mess up. Little stumble here. It's not major. I can course correct and get back on track. With the valley, yeah, you're going to have to dig yourself out of that. And you know personal experiences where you had to dig yourself out of it. Just you alone. And so even in that valley, realize your strength because you had to dig you up out that hole. Nobody could reach. No, there was no string. There was no cord. Nobody pulled you up. You had to dig you up out of that. And there is value in that valley, like she says. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, expectations equal results. So when you begin to expect the universe to respond to you in kind, then you get it. When you expect to be the embodiment or the vessel of positivity, I promise you, you get it. The universe wants us to expect great things, right? Remember, this is still a game, and the objective of all games is to win. So the universe has rigged it for us to win. See, the reason why there's value in the valley is because the universe still wants you to win. If you learn this lesson here, I promise you, you're going to the height of it. And that is just so securing. That is just like being hugged by a big man or something. It's just very securing. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, the different valley experiences provide us with the opportunity to develop and practice the traits and virtues we need in different aspects of our lives. Because let's stop pretending like people won't try you, people won't test you. When people think that you're just like rainbows and sunshine, for whatever reason they want to test that. Nobody wants to protect that because this person has found happiness in a hopeless place. They're like, I want to snatch that. You don't deserve to have that. How dare you be happy? Do you know what type of world we live in? And people are willing to snatch that from you. And so when you have the advantage of having different experiences, then you know how to deal with these people correctly or these experiences correctly, because every person is just a vessel for a thing to come through. So a lot of times people are not even in there. They're actually being utilized for something totally different. And I would love to talk about that at a later date. But in any case, Miss Iyanla goes on to say the valley experiences are not one size fit all. They are custom designed. So the universe has a zero time reference for every life that's born. There's a record for every life that's born. So when you take your first breath is when the time clock starts. I know a lot of people are like, the first 3 months of gestation, the time has started, but actually I think it's the first breath you take, because the 9 months in the womb, anything can happen, right? So it is not determined until you take your first breath. And so with that uniqueness, right, there is something about you where your experiences are going to be, like she said, tailor-made to you, right? Because it is the talent you have, the skill you have, the thing you have, the guiding light you have. That has to be treated with a certain amount of je ne sais quoi. It has to be treated with kid gloves almost, because these are delicate things, right? I know that there's a lot of friction in the universe and a lot of action and danger, but when it comes to you, that's the soft place, right? When it comes to you, that is the heart of the source, right? When it comes to you. And so this is why everything is tailor-made for your particular experience. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, you can determine what, so this particular passage is, you have to figure out what valley you are in. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, if you can determine what valley you have fallen into, once you identify the lessons you are learning or the virtue you must practice to eliminate the pain of the experience. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, the first way is to sincerely ask yourself, what is the lesson here? If you ask earnestly with a desire and intent to know, you will enter the valley of light. And so it's important that we continue to renew the mind, right? I love the Christian adjuncture of renewance of the mind. I love that. I love that there's an opportunity to be bathed, to be clean, to be washed, to be new when it comes to the way in which we think. I really, 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 really appreciate source that we're allowed to change, that we don't have to be beholden to the thing we were even just 5 minutes ago. That's a blessing. That's a blessing. That's a blessing. And so Miss Iyanla goes on to say, the simplest way, why did I just underline the simplest way? Okay, the first way to sincerely ask yourself, what is the lesson here? If you ask earnestly with a desire and intent to know, you will enter the valley of light. Just at the right moment, the answer will pop into your head or be revealed to you in some other undeniable way. That's the simplest way. There we go. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, we have been taught not to trust ourselves. And that's simply put, if we trusted ourselves, then we'd be able to ask those questions without reproof. We'd be able to ask those questions without feeling funny on the inside. My daughter left her phone here. Okay, I'm sorry. I just saw that. But we would be able to ask those questions of ourselves and then seek out the answer. And so that's the level of trust that we are going in towards with ourselves by taking on the mantle of mentally clearing out the fog, right? Socially clearing out the fog. And that's more so removing people that do not align with the trajectory that you're going on. It's a sad time when you cannot share your wins, your happiness, your devoutness, your quirkiness. It's a sad thing when you can't share that with those who don't see it for themselves, right? Because oftentimes jealousy and envy come into play when people can see it in you but not in themselves. Or you have the thing that they wish that they could wield. They feel like you have something that they could do better with, right? And so we have to begin to trust ourselves and hold on to the things that we know are true. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, if you are lucky, there will be in the mix the person or people with honesty and wisdom to tell you the absolute truth about yourself in a loving and passionate way. Exactly. The people cannot see it for you. So when a person cannot see it for themselves, or they exercise envy or jealousy, they're not going to have real conversations with you. It'll be a lot of backbiting, right? But it won't be with love. It won't be with, like she said, an earnest, an honest opinion, an honest statement, a truth in its proper sequence, right? She goes on to say, what they will tell you will be so simple, you won't believe it. You will instead spend lots of time and energy trying to figure out which of the other people have given you the best answer. And so that's more so people that codify, coddle, enable, right? And so when you're looking for the enablers or the codifiers and stuff like that, then you're never going to get the true answer that you want. But that also goes into another statement about asking the proper question to the proper person. Sometimes we don't need to talk about what we got going on. Sometimes we don't need to ask that question. Sometimes we just need to be silent, right? Sometimes we just need to ask the question in our own mind and wait and see, observe, exercise that silence and observation. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, if you can resist the urge to beat up on yourself, you will be able to identify the lessons, embrace the virtue, and honor the universal law governing your situation. And so it is a beautiful thing that the universe gives us chance time after time, right? That every day is actually a new day. That the sins of yesterday are not being counted against you today, right? You get another chance to get it right. And I think that is something so magical, but on the back end, it allows people to waste a lot of time because in their mind, oh, I still got time to do it. Yeah, but no. Miss Iyanla goes on to say, the lesson will usually be something you already knew. Either it crossed your mind before, you were warned about it, or you had a dream about it, or you even lived through it before. And so when we have that level of experience, it is imperative that we do self-inventory. What have I been through? How do I still feel about it? Am I still choked up